I was 17 when they ripped my daughter from my arms, and I swore that day I'd make them pay for it. My name is Olivia, and this is the story of how I kept that promise. The contractions started during my AP history exam. I remember gripping my pencil so hard it snapped, the sharp crack echoing through the silent classroom. Mrs. Peterson looked up from her desk, annoyed, until she saw my face. "Hospital," I whispered, and that's when my carefully constructed world began to crumble. My parents had hidden my pregnancy like a dirty secret for months. No baby shower, no excited preparations, just shame and whispered arguments behind closed doors. My mother, Lindsay, had perfected the art of strategic scarves and loose sweaters, coaching me on how to walk, how to sit, how to disappear. "Think of your future," she'd hiss whenever I dared to touch my growing belly. "Think of our reputation." The labor lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of agony while my parents sat in the waiting room, stone-faced and silent. No hand-holding, no encouragement, just the cold efficiency of people handling an embarrassing medical procedure. When they placed her in my arms, everything changed. She was perfect. Tiny fingers that wrapped around mine, dark hair that caught the light, and these incredible gray eyes that seemed to look right through me. In that moment, holding her, I felt love so fierce it physically hurt. "She's beautiful," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "Look at her, Mom. She's—" "Don't get attached." My father's voice cut through the moment like a blade. Frederick stood at the foot of my hospital bed, checking his watch. "The papers are ready." "Papers?" I looked between my parents, confusion cutting through my exhaustion. "The adoption papers," Lindsay said, not meeting my eyes. "We've found a lovely family, very respectable. They'll give her opportunities we simply cannot." "What?" The word came out as a croak. No, I'm keeping her." My father's laugh was bitter. "With what money? What job? You're 17, Olivia. You have no education, no prospects. We're not raising another child, and we certainly won't watch you throw your life away for a mistake." "She's not a mistake." I clutched my daughter tighter, and she made a soft sound that broke my heart. "She's my baby." "She's a problem," Frederick said coldly. "One we're solving." The social worker appeared like a vulture, all fake smiles and gentle coaxing. "Now, Olivia, your parents have explained the situation. This is really for the best. You're so young, and the adoptive family is wonderful. They've been trying for years." "I don't care." I was sobbing now, holding my daughter so tight I was afraid I'd hurt her. "Please, I'll figure it out. I'll get a job. You'll sign the papers." My mother's voice was ice. "Or we'll have you declared an unfit mother. Do you want that on your record forever?" The threats came fast and brutal. They'd cut off all support. I'd be homeless, penniless. They'd make sure no college would accept me, no employer would hire me. They painted a picture so bleak, so hopeless, that my 17-year-old mind couldn't see past it. But the worst part, they made me believe I was being selfish for wanting to keep her. "If you really love her," the social worker said gently, "you'll want what's best for her." I signed the papers with shaking hands, my tears blotting the ink. They took her while I was still bleeding, still broken, still begging them to wait just one more day. The last thing I saw was her tiny fist reaching toward me as they carried her away. My parents drove me home in silence. No comfort, no acknowledgement of what had just happened. At dinner that night, they talked about my brother Henry's latest football victory like nothing had changed. "Henry scored 3 touchdowns, Lindsay beamed. "The coach says he's got real potential for a scholarship." I sat there, my body still aching from childbirth, my arms empty, my heart shattered, and listened to them praise their golden boy. The son who could do no wrong, while I was the daughter who'd brought shame to their perfect family name. That night, alone in my room, I made a promise to my daughter and to myself. I would find her. I would build a life worthy of her. And someday, somehow, I would make my parents pay for what they'd stolen from both of us. 18 years later, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. The only thing more surprising than her tears was what she asked for: my help. The first job I got after high school was cleaning office buildings at night. Minimum wage, no benefits, and the judgment from everyone who knew my story was suffocating. "Heard about Olivia," I'd catch whispers at the grocery store. "Such a shame. Had so much potential." My parents had made sure everyone knew I'd made mistakes, but conveniently left out their role in destroying my life. They'd moved on, focusing all their energy on Henry's college applications and football career. I worked 3 jobs that first year: cleaning offices, waiting tables at a diner, and stocking shelves at a department store. Every spare dollar went toward 2 things: community college classes and hiring a private investigator to find my daughter. The PI was a gruff man named Rodriguez who worked out of a strip mall office. "Closed adoptions are tough," he warned me, "especially when the family has money and connections." "I don't care how tough it is," I told him, sliding my crumpled bills across his desk. "Find her." College was brutal. I'd fall asleep in lectures after working until 3 a.m., professors looking at me with pity or annoyance. But I pushed through, majoring in business with a minor in marketing. Every assignment, every test, every sleepless night was fuel for my fire. By 25, I'd saved enough to start my own cleaning company. Nothing fancy, just me, a van, and a determination to never be powerless again. "You sure about this?" my friend Sylvia asked, watching me load supplies into my beat-up vehicle. She was fresh out of law school, working at a small firm downtown. "It's a big risk." "Everything's a risk," I replied, slamming the van door. "At least this one's mine." The business grew slowly, then faster. I reinvested every profit, hired employees, expanded services. By 30, I owned a fleet of vehicles and had contracts with half the office buildings in the city. My parents never called, never asked how I was doing, never acknowledged my success. But I heard things through mutual acquaintances. Henry had graduated college and was working for their family business, some kind of investment firm Frederick had built over decades. "Your brother's doing so well," my Aunt Penny mentioned during one of our rare coffee meetings. She was the only family member who still spoke to me. Though I heard there might be some concerns. "What kind of concerns?" Penny glanced around the coffee shop nervously. "Gambling. Your father's been covering losses, but—" She shrugged. "You know how Henry is. Always thought rules didn't apply to him." I filed that information away. Everything was potential ammunition. Rodriguez called me every few months with updates. Dead ends, mostly. The adoption had been handled by an expensive law firm, records sealed tight. But he never gave up, and neither did I. "I'm getting close," he told me on my 34th birthday. "Found the lawyer who handled it. Guy named Dalton. He's retired now, might be willing to talk." My heart hammered. "What do you need from me?" "Patience, and maybe a bigger retainer. This is delicate work." I wrote the check without hesitation. The breakthrough came 6 months later. Dalton had kept detailed records, and retirement had made him chatty. My daughter's name was Payton. She was 17, living 2 states over with her adoptive family. Honor student, planning to study journalism in college. "She's beautiful," Rodriguez said, sliding a photo across his desk. "Looks just like you." I stared at the picture, my hands shaking. She had my eyes, my stubborn chin. She was laughing in the photo, surrounded by friends, looking happy and confident and whole. "I want to meet her," I whispered. "Slow down. These things take time. The adoptive parents seem decent. They might be open to contact, but you need to be careful." That's when Sylvia's call came. "Turn on Channel 7, she said without preamble. "Your family's in the news." I grabbed the remote, my stomach dropping. The headline read, "Local investment firm under investigation for fraud." The reporter was standing outside my father's office building. Frederick Harding's company is accused of mismanaging client funds, with sources suggesting the owner's son may have gambled away millions in investor money. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Olivia, please call me. We need to talk. It's urgent. Then another. I know we haven't spoken, but we're family. Please. And finally, we need your help. I stared at the messages, 18 years of silence broken by desperation. My successful business, my beautiful penthouse apartment, my carefully built life, all of it had led to this moment. Sylvia appeared at my door an hour later, bottle of wine in hand. So, she said, settling onto my couch, what's the plan? I don't know yet. I showed her the messages, the news coverage. But Rodriguez found her, Sylvia. He found Payton. Her eyes widened. When? This morning, same day they lost everything. I smiled and it felt sharp. 18 years slipping through my fingers, and now 2 phone calls would blow everything apart. I let them sweat for 3 days before I called back. Olivia? My mother's voice was breathless, desperate. Oh, thank God. I was so worried you wouldn't. What do you want, Lindsay? Silence. She wasn't used to me using her first name. Growing up, it had always been Mother or Ma'am. We need to talk about the business situation. Frederick thinks maybe we could work something out, a loan or... No, please, just hear us out. We could meet somewhere neutral, maybe that nice restaurant downtown. My house, this Saturday, 2 o'clock. I kept my voice flat, businesslike. All of you, Frederick, Henry, and you. Your house? Olivia, we don't even know where you live. I'll text you the address. And Lindsay, come prepared to explain exactly why you think I owe you anything. I hung up before she could respond. Sylvia was already at my kitchen island when I walked in, legal documents spread across the marble surface. Payton's adoptive parents are lovely people, she said without looking up. I spoke with them yesterday. They've always been open about the adoption, and Payton's been curious about her birth mother. What did you tell them? The truth. That you were 17, coerced by your family, and have spent 18 years looking for her. Sylvia finally looked up. They want to meet you, Olivia. All of them. My hands trembled as I poured coffee. When? Tomorrow, if you're ready. Payton's home from school for spring break. The drive to meet Payton was the longest 2 hours of my life. Sylvia came with me for moral support, chattering about legal precedents and adoption law while I gripped the steering wheel and tried not to hyperventilate. The coffee shop was small, tucked into a college town strip mall. I spotted them immediately, a middle-aged couple sitting with a young woman who had my eyes and my stubborn chin. Olivia? The adoptive mother, Sarah, stood first. I'm so glad to finally meet you. Payton looked up from her laptop, and time stopped. She was beautiful, confident, wearing a college sweatshirt and thick-rimmed glasses. When she smiled, it was like looking in a mirror. Hi, she said simply. I've wondered about you my whole life. We talked for 3 hours. Sarah and her husband David were teachers, kind and patient people who'd given Payton everything I couldn't at 17. They didn't make me feel guilty or defensive. They just listened as I explained what had happened. Your grandparents told you I didn't want you, I said to Payton, my voice breaking. That's not true. They forced me to give you up. Payton reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I figured something like that happened. The story never made sense. You were just a kid yourself. I've been looking for you since the day you were born. I know. Mom and Dad told me. She glanced at her adoptive parents with obvious love. They said if you ever wanted to meet me, they'd support it. By the time we left, we'd exchanged numbers and made plans to stay in touch. Payton wanted to know everything about me, my business, my life. She was smart, curious, and had inherited my determination. There's something else, I told her as we walked to our cars. My family, your biological grandparents, they're in trouble, financial trouble. They're coming to see me this weekend. Payton's eyes sharpened. The ones who made you give me up? Yes. What are you going to do? I looked at this incredible young woman, This daughter I'd lost and found again, and felt something settle into place. I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve, but I want you to know about it first. This might get ugly. How ugly? They destroyed my life once. Now it's my turn. Payton was quiet for a long moment. Can I be there when they come to your house? Are you sure it won't be pleasant? She smiled, and it was fierce. I've spent 18 years wondering why my birth mother gave me away. I think it's time they explained themselves. Friday night, I walked through my house one more time, making sure everything was perfect. The marble floors gleamed, fresh flowers filled crystal vases, and expensive art lined the walls. Every surface screamed success, money, power, everything they'd told me I'd never have. My phone rang. Henry. Olivia, what the hell is wrong with you? His voice was slurred. Drinking or stress, maybe both. Mom's been crying for days. Dad's barely sleeping. We're family, for Christ's sake. Are we? Funny, I don't remember getting that memo 18 years ago. You're being ridiculous. So what, you're going to let us lose everything because you're still mad about some teenage drama? Teenage drama? I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to me. Is that what we're calling it now? Look, we all made mistakes back then, but we? What mistakes did you make, Henry, besides gambling away your family's future? Silence. See you tomorrow, brother. Don't be late. I hung up and looked around my beautiful home one more time. Tomorrow, they'd see what I'd built from nothing. They'd see the daughter they'd thrown away, grown into an incredible young woman despite their cruelty. They have no idea who will be sitting next to me. They arrived in Frederick's old Mercedes, the one he'd been driving since I was in high school. I watched from my floor-to-ceiling windows as they sat in the circular driveway for a full 5 minutes, staring up at my house. Payton was already there, sitting on my white leather couch, looking poised and confident in dark jeans and a blazer. She'd driven up that morning, and we'd spent hours talking over breakfast. Now she was ready. You sure about this? I asked her one last time. Absolutely. She straightened her shoulders. I want to see their faces. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock. Frederick always was punctual. I opened the door to find all 3 of them clustered on my front steps like nervous salespeople. Lindsay had aged. Her hair was thinner, her face more lined. Frederick looked smaller somehow, his expensive suit hanging loose on his frame. Henry stood behind them, fidgeting with his phone. Olivia, Frederick's voice was stiff. Thank you for agreeing to see us. Come in. They followed me through the marble foyer, their eyes taking in everything. The crystal chandelier, the original artwork, the sweeping staircase. I watched Lindsay's face as she calculated the cost of each piece. Beautiful home, she said carefully. You've done very well for yourself. Have I? That's surprising, considering I had no prospects. We entered the living room, and that's when they saw Payton. She stood up gracefully, extending her hand like I'd taught her during our morning prep session. Hello, she said with a warm smile. I'm Payton. Frederick shook her hand automatically, his businessman instincts kicking in. Frederick, nice to meet you. Are you Olivia's assistant? No. Payton's smile widened. I'm her daughter. The silence was deafening. Lindsay's face went white. Frederick's hand dropped like Payton had burned him. Henry looked confused, glancing between all of us. What? Lindsay's voice was barely a whisper. You heard her. I moved to stand beside Payton, my hand on her shoulder. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Payton, my daughter, your granddaughter, the baby you forced me to give away 18 years ago. That's impossible, Frederick said sharply. The adoption was sealed. There's no way you could have... Found her? I'm very good at getting what I want now. Amazing what you can accomplish when you're not 17 and terrified. Lindsay sank into a chair, her purse clutching to her chest. She can't be here. She's not part of this family. Excuse me? Payton's voice was ice cold, and I felt a surge of pride. I'm sorry. What did you just say? You were adopted, Lindsay said desperately. You have a family, a real family. This is just biology. Biology? Payton laughed, and it was sharp. You mean the biology that made you abandon your own grandchild? The biology that made you force a 17-year-old girl to give up her baby? Henry finally found his voice. Wait, this is the kid from high school? The one who what? I cut him off. Go ahead, Henry. Finish that sentence. He looked around the room helplessly. I thought, Mom and Dad said you made the choice, that you weren't ready to be a mother. They lied. Payton's voice was steady, controlled. They threatened her, told her she'd be homeless and unemployed if she kept me, made her believe she was being selfish for wanting her own child. That's not how it happened, Shil, Frederick said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? I pulled out my phone, scrolled to a recording app. Should I play the voicemails you left me? The ones where you called me selfish and irresponsible? Where you said keeping a baby would ruin my life and yours? You recorded us? Lindsay's voice was shrill. I recorded everything, every threat, every manipulation, every cruel word. I've been building a case against you for 18 years. Payton moved closer to me, a united front. They told me my birth mother was young and couldn't take care of me. They never mentioned that she was their own daughter or that they forced her to give me up to protect their reputation. We did what we thought was best, Frederick said weakly. For who? Payton's eyes flashed. For me? Or for your precious image? You don't understand, Lindsay pleaded. We had a position in the community. People looked up to us. If word got out that our teenage daughter was pregnant. So you threw us both away, I finished. And now you want my help because your golden boy gambled away your fortune. Henry's face flushed red. That's not fair. I made some mistakes, but... Mistakes? I laughed. Henry, you stole millions from your clients. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. We can fix this, Frederick said desperately. As a family. If we work together. Family? Payton stood up, her voice ringing with authority. You want to talk about family? You disowned your own daughter when she needed you most. You stole her child and made her believe she was worthless. And now you have the audacity to show up here asking for help? Lindsay was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Please, Payton, we were young too. We made mistakes, but we're still your grandparents. Payton looked at her with something close to pity. No, you're not. Grandparents love their grandchildren. They don't throw them away like garbage. She turned to me, her eyes bright with unshed tears, but her voice steady. You can't erase blood, Mother. Isn't that what you always told me? The words hit Lindsay like a physical blow. She doubled over, sobbing. Frederick stood up abruptly. We should go. This was a mistake. Sit down, I said quietly. We're not finished. Frederick remained standing, his jaw clenched. We're not begging, Olivia. We came here to discuss a business arrangement. Sit down. My voice carried the authority I'd learned running a multi-million-dollar company. You want my money? You'll hear my terms. He sat. I walked to my desk and pulled out a thick folder. I've had my lawyers draw up some documents. I'm prepared to help with your financial situation. Lindsay's face lit up with desperate hope. Oh, Olivia, thank you. I knew you'd... I'm not giving you a dime. The hope died instantly. But I am setting up a trust fund for Payton. $2 million, accessible when she turns 21. Full college tuition paid immediately, plus living expenses. Henry shot up from his chair. What the hell? We're the ones who need help. And she's the one who deserves it. I kept my voice level. The granddaughter you discarded gets the family money. Poetic, don't you think? This is insane, Frederick said. She's not even really part of the family. Stop! Payton's voice cut through the room like a blade. Stop saying that. I am part of this family, whether you like it or not. And frankly, after meeting you, I'm not sure I want to be. You can't do this, Henry said, his face red with rage. I'm their son, their real child. You deserve prison, I said calmly, which is where you'll end up when the FBI finishes their investigation. The FBI? Lindsay whispered. Oh, you didn't know. Henry's gambling debts weren't just to casinos. He borrowed from some very dangerous people, then used client funds to pay them back. That's federal fraud. Henry's face went pale. How do you know that? I know everything, Henry. I've been watching this family fall apart for months, waiting for the right moment. The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. That'll be Dalton, I said, standing up. Your old family lawyer. I invited him to join us. Dalton retired years ago, Frederick said suspiciously. He did, but he kept very detailed records. I opened the door to find Dalton Wade, now in his 70s, but still sharp as a tack. He carried a leather briefcase and wore the same serious expression I remembered from 18 years ago. Olivia, he said with a slight nod. Frederick, Lindsay. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Dalton, Frederick said carefully, what are you doing here? Cleaning up an old mess. Dalton set his briefcase on my coffee table and opened it. I've been carrying this guilt for 18 years. Time to set the record straight. He pulled out a manila folder thick with documents. The adoption papers for Payton, including some very interesting signatures. Those records are sealed, Lindsay said frantically. The official ones are, but I kept copies of everything, including the documents you asked me to forge. The room went dead silent. I don't know what you're talking about, Frederick said, but his voice shook. Dalton pulled out a sheet of paper. Olivia's signature on the adoption consent form, except Olivia never signed it. You did, Lindsay. I watched you forge your own daughter's signature. That's a lie, Lindsay whispered. Is it? I have the practice sheets you gave me, pages of you practicing Olivia's handwriting. You were quite thorough. He pulled out more papers. And here's the affidavit stating that Olivia willingly surrendered her parental rights, also forged, and the document claiming she was mentally unstable and unfit to parent, completely fabricated. Payton stood up slowly, her face white with rage. You forged her signature? You made the whole thing illegal? We did what was necessary, Frederick said desperately. You committed fraud. Payton's voice rose. You stole me from my own mother. The adoption would never have gone through if Olivia had fought it, Dalton continued. So you made sure she couldn't. You told her she had no choice, no rights, no options. But legally, she never gave consent. I felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Which means the adoption was invalid from the start. You never legally gave up your parental rights. Henry was pacing now, running his hands through his hair. This is insane. You can't prove any of this. Dalton smiled grimly. Actually, I can. I recorded our conversations, Frederick. Every meeting where you pressured me to falsify documents. Every time you threatened to ruin my practice if I didn't cooperate. You recorded us? Frederick's voice was barely a whisper. I was young, scared, and in debt. You had power over me, but I wasn't stupid. Dalton pulled out an old cassette recorder. Digital copies are with the State Bar Association, the FBI, and several news outlets. Insurance, you understand? Lindsay was sobbing openly now. Please, Dalton, we were desperate. We thought we were protecting everyone. You were protecting yourselves, Payton said coldly. Your reputation, your precious image. I walked over to where my parents sat, broken and exposed. I always wondered where your love ended and your power began. Now, we all know. Frederick looked up at me with something like fear. What do you want, Olivia? Justice, acknowledgement, and an apology to your granddaughter for the 18 years you stole from both of us. And if we refuse? I smiled, and it felt like ice. Then Dalton's recordings go public. The forged documents get released to the media. Your fraud gets exposed alongside Henry's, and you lose everything: your reputation, your freedom, and any chance of salvaging what's left of your lives. Henry kicked my coffee table, sending papers flying. This is blackmail. No, Payton said quietly. This is consequences. Frederick's hands shook as he picked up the scattered papers. You can't be serious about going public with this. Try me. The scandal would destroy us, Lindsay pleaded. We'd lose everything: our friends, our standing in the community. Good, Payton said flatly. Maybe you should have thought about that before you committed fraud. Henry was still pacing, his phone buzzing constantly. I can't go to prison. I have debts, people who will kill me if I don't pay. Should have thought of that before you gambled with other people's money, I said. This is all your fault. Henry spun around, pointing at me. If you'd just helped us quietly, none of this would have happened. My fault? I laughed. Henry, you're 30 years old. When are you going to take responsibility for your own choices? Dalton cleared his throat. There's more. He pulled out another document. The trust fund Frederick set up for Henry's education, the one worth $500,000, it was supposed to go to Olivia, too. Equal shares for both children. What? I stared at the paper. Your parents told me you'd forfeited your right to it when you chose to have a baby. They had me transfer your portion to Henry's account. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. You stole my college fund, too? We needed the money for Henry's future, Frederick said weakly. He had potential. And I didn't. My voice was deadly quiet. Because I got pregnant, I didn't deserve an education? That's not what we meant, Lindsay said desperately. It's exactly what you meant. Payton stood beside me, her face flushed with anger. You punished her for being human, for making one mistake at 17. It wasn't just one mistake, Frederick said. She was rebellious, defiant. She was a teenager, Payton shouted. A child who needed her parents' support, not their cruelty. My phone buzzed. A text from Sylvia. Press conference set for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Channel 7 confirmed. Ready when you are. I showed the message to Payton. She nodded grimly. What press conference? Lindsay's voice was shrill. The one where I announced my company's expansion, I said casually, and discussed the importance of family support in building success. Frederick's face went gray. You wouldn't? I would. I will. Unless you do exactly what I say. Which is what? He asked through gritted teeth. Public acknowledgement, a full apology to both me and Payton, admission of what you did, and a commitment to make amends. That's social suicide, Lindsay whispered. Then you'd better hope your apology is convincing. Henry threw his phone across the room, where it shattered against my marble fireplace. This is insane. We're family. No, we're not, Payton said coldly. Family doesn't abandon each other. Family doesn't forge documents and steal children. Family doesn't choose reputation over love. You don't understand, Lindsay said, reaching toward Payton. We were trying to protect. Don't touch me. Payton stepped back. Don't you dare touch me. The doorbell rang again. Through the window I could see my Aunt Penny on the front steps, holding an envelope. That's Penny, I told my parents. I invited her too. Penny? Frederick's voice was strangled. We haven't spoken to her in years. Because she took my side, because she was the only one who said what you did was wrong. I let Penny in. She was in her 60s now, gray-haired and dignified, wearing a simple blue dress. She looked around the room, taking in the scene, my parents huddled together, Henry sulking in the corner, Dalton with his damning documents, and Payton standing tall beside me. Well, she said dryly, this is exactly what I expected. Penny, Lindsay said weakly, we didn't know you were coming. I'm sure you didn't. Penny handed me the envelope. This is for you, dear, and for Payton. I opened it to find a handwritten letter and several photographs. The photos were of me as a baby, as a toddler, family pictures from before everything went wrong. I saved these, Penny said. I knew someday you'd want them, and I wrote down everything I remembered about what really happened 18 years ago, in case you ever needed witnesses. Penny, please, Frederick said. We're trying to work this out as a family. Family? Penny's laugh was bitter. Frederick, you disowned your own daughter. You threw away your grandchild like she was garbage. You stole Olivia's inheritance and gave it to your precious son. What part of that sounds like family to you? We made mistakes, Lindsay said. You made choices, Penny corrected. Cruel, calculated choices. And now you want Olivia to bail you out of the consequences. She turned to Payton. And you, sweetheart, you're beautiful. You look just like your mother did at your age. Payton smiled for the first time since the confrontation began. Thank you. I wish I'd known you growing up. You'll know me now, Penny said firmly, if you want to. I'd like that. Frederick stood up abruptly. This is enough. We're leaving. No, I said quietly. You're not, because if you walk out that door, the press conference happens tomorrow. The documents get released, the recordings go public, and you lose any chance of controlling the narrative. What do you want from us? He asked desperately. Tomorrow, you'll stand beside me at that press conference. You'll tell the truth about what you did. You'll apologize to your granddaughter, and you'll accept whatever consequences come from your actions. And if we do that, Lindsay asked, then maybe, we can find a way forward, but it starts with the truth. Henry laughed bitterly. You really think you've won, don't you? I think I've survived, I said, which is more than you can say. I looked around the room at my broken family, at the evidence of their crimes, at the daughter they'd tried to erase. If you want to save your legacy, you'll have to abase yourselves to the very secret you tried to erase. The press conference was set for the ballroom of the downtown Marriott. I'd chosen the venue carefully, the same hotel where my parents had hosted Henry's high school graduation party, where they'd celebrated his college acceptance, where they'd announced his engagement to his ex-fiancée before she found out about his gambling. You don't have to do this, Payton said, as we stood in the green room. She looked professional in a navy blazer, her hair pulled back, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Yes, I do. I adjusted my red suit jacket, the color chosen deliberately. Power, confidence, blood. Sylvia poked her head in. 5 minutes. The room's packed. Local news, business reporters, and half the city's social elite. Your parents just arrived. Through the crack in the door I could see them. Frederick in his best suit, trying to look dignified. Lindsay clutching his arm, her makeup perfect, but her hands shaking. Henry wasn't with them. Where's your brother? I asked when they approached. Gone, Frederick said quietly. Left town this morning, said he couldn't face the cameras. Coward, Payton muttered. Maybe he's the smart one, Lindsay said, her voice hollow. The hotel manager appeared. Ms. Olivia, we're ready for you. I walked onto the small stage, Payton beside me, my parents trailing behind like condemned prisoners. Camera flashes exploded. The crowd murmured. This wasn't the typical business announcement they'd expected. Good afternoon, I said into the microphone. Thank you all for coming. I called this press conference to discuss family, legacy, and the true cost of success. I gestured to Payton. I'd like you to meet my daughter, Payton. She's 18 years old, an honor student, and until last week I hadn't seen her since the day she was born. The murmur grew louder. Reporters leaned forward, sensing a story. 18 years ago, when I was 17 and pregnant, my parents— I turned to look at Frederick and Lindsay. These people standing behind me forced me to give her up for adoption. They told me I had no choice, no rights, no future if I kept my child. A reporter's hand shot up. Ms. Olivia, are you saying— I'm saying they lied. They forged documents. They committed fraud to steal my daughter and protect their reputation. The room erupted. Cameras clicked frantically. Frederick's face was stone, but Lindsay looked like she might faint. They told everyone I was irresponsible, that I'd made my choice. But the truth is, They never gave me a choice. They threatened to destroy my life if I didn't sign papers I later learned were forged. "Do you have proof of these allegations?" a reporter called out. Sylvia stepped forward with a box of documents. "Copies of the forged signatures, recorded conversations, and sworn affidavits are being distributed now," I continued. "They stole my college fund and gave it to my brother. They erased me from family photos. They told people I was a cautionary tale while they celebrated their real child's successes." "What about now?" another reporter asked. "Why come forward today?" "Because they came to me asking for money. Their golden boy gambled away millions in client funds, and they thought I'd quietly bail them out. They still saw me as the shameful daughter who owed them something." I turned to face my parents directly. "Would you like to respond? This is your chance to tell your side." Frederick stepped to the microphone, his voice barely audible. We made mistakes. We were young, scared of scandal. We thought we were protecting everyone." "Protecting who?" a reporter shouted. "Our reputation," Lindsay whispered into the microphone. "Our standing in the community. We were wrong." "Are you admitting to document fraud?" another reporter pressed. Frederick looked at me desperately. I nodded slightly. Stick to the script we'd agreed on, or face criminal charges. "Yes," he said, the words seeming to physically pain him. "We forged our daughter's signature. We lied about her consent. We stole her child and her inheritance." The room exploded again. Questions flew from every direction. "Why come forward now?" "What do you want from your parents?" "Are you pressing charges?" I raised my hand for silence. I'm not seeking criminal prosecution. I'm seeking something more valuable: acknowledgement. For 18 years, they've let people believe I abandoned my child. Today, the truth comes out. I pulled out a legal document. I'm also announcing the establishment of the Payton Trust, funded with $2 million from my personal assets. My daughter will have every opportunity they tried to deny both of us. Payton stepped to the microphone. "I want everyone to know that my adoptive parents are wonderful people who gave me a loving home. But I also want people to know the truth about how I came to need that home. My biological grandparents chose their image over their own family. They threw away their daughter and granddaughter to avoid embarrassment." "What's your relationship with them now?" a reporter asked. Payton looked at Frederick and Lindsay with something close to pity. "I don't have one. They're strangers who happen to share my DNA." "One final question," I said to the crowd. "You might wonder why I'm doing this publicly instead of privately. The answer is simple. They spent 18 years controlling the narrative about me. Today, I take that power back." As we left the stage, Frederick grabbed my arm. "Are you satisfied now? You've destroyed us." I looked at him, this man who'd once seemed so powerful, so intimidating, and felt nothing but emptiness. "You destroyed yourselves. I just held up a mirror." Lindsay was crying openly now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. "The whole city will know. Our friends, our neighbors." "Good," Payton said coldly. "Maybe other parents will think twice before throwing their children away." We walked out through the crowd of reporters, leaving my parents to face the cameras alone. As their legacy shattered on live television, I felt triumph and something hollow. The aftermath hit faster than I expected. By evening, the story was everywhere. Social media exploded with hashtags like "Gotcha Justice for Olivia" and "Child Adoption Fraud." The local news ran it as their lead story. My phone hadn't stopped ringing. Payton and I sat in my kitchen, eating takeout Chinese food and scrolling through the coverage on our phones. "Look at this," she said, showing me a Facebook post. "Mrs. Henderson from your old neighborhood. She says she always wondered what really happened to you." "Mrs. Henderson gossiped about me for years," I said dryly. "Now she's pretending she was on my side." "And this one," Payton scrolled down. "Someone calling your parents monsters and saying they should be in jail." I set down my phone. The vindication felt strange, hollow. "How do you feel about all this?" Payton was quiet for a moment. "Angry, sad, relieved, I guess. I always knew something didn't add up about my adoption story. Now I know why. Do you regret being there today? No. Her voice was firm. They needed to face what they did. But she hesitated. What happens now? With them, I mean. Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Penny standing on my front steps, holding a casserole dish. Aunt Penny's here, I told Payton, buzzing her in. Penny bustled into the kitchen, setting the dish on my counter. Figured you girls might need some real food after today's circus. How bad is it out there, well, I asked. Bad for them. Frederick's business partners are distancing themselves. Lindsay's bridge club is in chaos. The country club's probably going to revoke their membership. Penny sat down with us. But that's not why I'm here. She pulled out her phone, showing us a text message. This is from your mother. She wants to know if you'll see her. Alone. I stared at the message. What does she want? To apologize, I think. Really apologize. Not the performance she gave today. Payton looked at me. It's your choice, but if you do see her, I want to be there. She specifically asked to see Olivia alone, Penny said gently. Too bad. Payton's voice was steel. She lost the right to make demands when she forged my mother's signature. An hour later, Lindsay stood in my living room, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Her makeup was gone, her hair disheveled, her expensive clothes wrinkled. Thank you for seeing me, she said quietly. Talk, I said. Payton sat beside me, arms crossed. Lindsay looked around my beautiful home, her eyes lingering on family photos, pictures of me with Payton from our recent meetings, images of my success, my life rebuilt from nothing. I came to apologize, really apologize, not the performance from today. I'm listening. We were wrong, completely, utterly wrong. Her voice broke. We were so worried about what people would think, about our reputation, that we forgot you were our daughter, our child who needed us. You didn't forget, Payton said coldly. You chose your image over your family. Lindsay flinched. You're right. We chose wrong, and we've been choosing wrong ever since, covering it up, lying about it, pretending it never happened. Why now? I asked. Why apologize now, when it's too late to matter? Because I saw you today, really saw you, the woman you became despite what we did to you, the mother you would have been if we'd let you. Tears started falling. And I realized we didn't just lose a granddaughter 18 years ago. We lost our daughter, too. You threw me away, I said simply. I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Payton spoke. What about my college fund? The money you stole? Lindsay reached into her purse, pulling out a check. It's not enough to make up for what we took, but it's everything we have left. The house is going into foreclosure. Frederick's assets are frozen. This is from my jewelry, some family heirlooms I sold. I looked at the check. $50,000. I don't want your money, I said, handing it back. Then give it to Payton, please. Let me do one thing right. Payton stared at the check, then at her grandmother. I don't want your guilt money either. It's not guilt money. It's what I should have given your mother 18 years ago. Support, help, love. Lindsay's voice was barely a whisper. I can't undo what we did, but maybe I can stop making it worse. I looked at this broken woman who had once seemed so powerful, so controlling. What do you want from us, Lindsay? Nothing. I want nothing from you. You don't owe me forgiveness. You don't owe me a relationship. I just wanted you to know that I see what we did. I see what we lost, and I'm sorry. She stood up slowly. I'll go now, but Olivia? Payton? You're both extraordinary. You became extraordinary without us, maybe because of what we put you through. I'm proud of you, even though I have no right to be. After she left, Payton and I sat in silence. Do you believe her? Payton asked finally. I think she believes herself. Whether that matters. I shrugged. Are you going to forgive them? I thought about it. About the 17-year-old girl who'd been forced to give up her baby. About the years of struggle, of building myself from nothing. About the daughter I'd found again, strong and brilliant and whole. No, I said finally. I'm not going to forgive them, but I'm not going to let them poison my future either. Payton nodded. What about us? What happens with us? I looked at this incredible young woman, my daughter, returned to me by fate and determination. We build something new, something better. We break the cycle. She smiled, and it was like sunshine. I'd like that. I pulled out my phone and deleted my parents' contact information. Then I opened my laptop and started typing. What are you doing? Payton asked. Writing our story, the real story. Not for revenge this time, for healing. As I typed, I felt something shift inside me. The anger was still there, but it no longer controlled me. I'd given them a mirror. They smashed it. Now I was walking away, picking up the pieces for someone finally worthy of my legacy. Her. The girl they tried to erase had become a woman they couldn't ignore. And the granddaughter they'd thrown away would carry our family forward, but on her own terms. That was justice enough.